The Connecticut State Department of Education will be field testing a new Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment in the spring of 2018 for eligible students enrolled in grades 5, 8, and 11. These are the same students who are eligible to take the Connecticut Alternate Assessment in Math and English Language Arts through the submission of the Learner Characteristics Inventory. This new assessment is aligned to the next generation science standards and will replace the Connecticut Mastery Test and Connecticut Academic Performance Test Skills Checklist Science. Similar to the CMT CAP Skills Checklist Science administered in previous years, the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment is intended to be administered throughout the year as teachers work with students to rate student performance. Therefore, this test will be made available throughout the year as a non-secure test. However, for the 2018 field test, teachers will be asked to administer and score student performance on a portion of the assessment to eligible students in grades 5, 8, and 11. Teachers may begin administering the assessment as soon as materials are made available in mid-March. Trained TEAs will collect student ratings on the student score worksheet and upload them using the data entry interface. Teachers should reference the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment Test Administration Manual, or CTAS Manual, in conjunction with this training for more in-depth information about administering this test. The window for submitting student ratings begins on April 30th, 2018 and ends on May 25th. This assessment was developed with extensive feedback from Connecticut educators. From the inception of the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment, the CSDE sought informal and formal feedback from educators across the state regarding format, design, and content that would be most relevant and appropriate for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities eligible for this assessment. Based on that feedback, the following guiding principles were established. The Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment has been organized into 6 storylines in each assessed grade level, grades 5, 8, and 11. There are 2 storylines per content area. Content areas include earth science, or science systems and natural resources, life science, living organisms and healthy ecosystems, and physical science, forces and motion and using energy every day. Each storyline includes a performance task at each assessed grade level with a series of assessment activities. Each performance task provides a coherent sequence of activities for the trained teacher administering the alternate assessment. These activities ask students to make sense of real-world phenomena and/or engage with an engineering design problem, such as what causes a pond to become polluted, or how forces affect the motion of a skateboarder. Trained teachers will rate student performance on each activity associated with each core extension using a scoring worksheet. Each storyline outlines the following components used to inform the development of the performance task. There are a series of guiding questions for each performance task. Each guiding question serves to motivate learners to explore an idea or a phenomenon. These guiding questions give a purpose for learning by describing what are we trying to find out. Grade-level learning progressions focus on the breadth and depth of the performance tasks for this assessed population and are aligned to the NGSS performance standards. The NGSS standard performance expectations are used to derive Connecticut Alternate Science Essence Statements. Essence statements define the derived core understandings embedded in the grade level standard performance expectations making the standard performance expectation accessible and achievable by students with significant cognitive disabilities. Core extensions describe specific student performances and are connected to activities that are administered to the student by the trained teacher. Finally, you will notice in this table that we've identified key vocabulary words that are associated with this specific storyline. For the purposes of this Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment field test, each trained teacher will be expected to administer performance tasks for 3 of the 6 storylines in the appropriate grade level for each student. This means 1 performance task and associated activities for each content area. Districts will be assigned to either Form 1, storylines 1, 3, and 5, or Form 2, storylines 2, 4, and 6. Approved private special education programs will be assigned to either Form 1 or Form 2. So now let's take a look at how this relates to what your students are expected to do in order to assess them. In each performance task, there are a series of cohesive activities designed to elicit student responses and assess student performance on each core extension. As a reminder, please refer to the CTAS Test Administration Manual for more detailed information. For example, we will use the Life Science Storyline 4, Healthy Ecosystems, Grade A Performance Task, as a model representing the structure of each storyline and associated performance task. First, notice that the cover page is used to identify the content area storyline number, storyline name, and grade level performance task. Next, the general overview includes an overall description of the grade level performance task and the content of the activities outlined by the performance task. A list of materials needed identifies the supplies that the TEA will use to conduct the various activities. This list also identifies teacher-provided resources, if any, needed to conduct investigations in the activities and instructions for preparing materials. Resources in the resource packet are required to administer the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment and are listed according to the identifiers included on the back of each resource. Let's take a closer look at preparing the resources. In preparation for administering a performance task, teachers will gather the resources and materials specified by the resource packet unique to its corresponding performance task. This must be done prior to the administration of the activity. The resource packet contains a list of materials necessary to conduct the activity and may include things such as cards, graphs, posters, sentence strips, and strips. These materials can be accessed and printed from the online resource packet. Additionally, teachers must also print each activity and corresponding card as identified by the list of resources. Resources must be printed in color ink. The card, sentence strip, and strip resources will need to be cut out. Resources are listed according to the resource identifier which appears on the back of each resource. Directions must be followed exactly in order specified by the resource identifier to ensure that the activity functions as intended. The resources needed for the administration of each activity are listed according to these resource identifiers in the Teacher Notes section of each activity. In order for the resource identifiers to align to the correct resources, please make sure to set your printer preferences to print in color ink, flip on the short edge, and print double-sided. Now let's take a closer look at this performance task activity. For each activity associated with a performance task, the TEA will refer to the coded essence statement and core extension to understand what is being assessed. The teacher notes identifies the activity and the material needed to conduct the assessment. The notes provide guidance for required materials and information that supports the administration of the activity. Steps to follow include the instructions and script to administer the activity. The script may be repeated or paraphrased based upon the needs of the student. The next section, Scoring Guidance and Scaffolding, provides rating guidance with descriptions of student behavior and how the student response should be rated on the 0 to 2 scale. Scoring guidance provides the correct answers for each activity and core extension, along with the scaffolding options. As you can see under this section, Content Guidance and Rating defines the characteristics for each score point. The trained teacher will rate each core extension using a general rating scale of 0, 1, or 2. Let's take a moment to examine each rating score. With a 0-point rating, a student has no demonstrated observable response to the performance task, or the student requires full physical guidance, which is physical assistance throughout an entire activity. With a 1-point rating, a student may demonstrate limited understanding, typically requiring additional teacher support. To receive a rating of 1 point, the student response may be supported by the trained teacher by providing prompts or cues indicated on the following slide. A 2-point rating is given for student responses that clearly indicate the student has mastered understanding and performs independently, or performs independently with the support of repeated directions. Original directions may be repeated or rephrased without further explanation or clarification. As mentioned, each of the performance activities will provide specific scoring and content guidance. We will review this later in the presentation. As mentioned on the previous slide, a 1-point rating score allows the teacher administering this test to provide students with prompts and cues. This chart explains the most common prompts and cues. This is the working copy of a student scoring worksheet. You will need to print off a copy for each of the students you will be assessing with the alternate science. Care must be taken to use the correct grade level and field test form. Forms are assigned to each district and are either Form 1, which includes storylines 1, 3, and 5, or Form 2, which includes storylines 2, 4, and 6. As you administer each performance task, use the Student Rating Score worksheet to record the student ratings for each activity aligned to a single core extension. Record each rating score of 0, 1, or 2 points for each activity and its corresponding core extension. Scores recorded on the worksheet must be entered into the data entry interface between April 30th and May 25th, 2018 in order for the student responses to be processed. In addition, the Connecticut State Department of Education is seeking feedback on the alternate assessment in science in order to make improvement for next year's administration. On the worksheet, there is a column to make notes to provide this feedback on each core extension and performance task activity that is completed. This feedback will also be entered into the DEI with the student ratings. It is important to note that the data entry interface will require a score submission for each item, including the teacher feedback associated with the core extension. If a teacher does not have specific feedback for the core extension, simply enter none or NA in the corresponding field to move forward to the next item. Once the TEA has completed scoring each core extension, the ratings must be submitted. The submission of the student's scores via the data entry interface complete the assessment process for the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment. As a reminder, the testing window to submit all student scores is April 30th through May 25th, 2018. Here are the steps to submit the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment to the Connecticut State Department of Education. First, navigate to the Connecticut Comprehensive Assessment Program portal. Click on the Connecticut Alternate Assessment card. Next, click on the Data Entry Interface, or DEI, card. You will then be asked for your username and password used to access all AIR systems. As a reminder, only teachers with a TEA account will be able to administer and submit the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment. Once you are logged in, you will be asked for the student's first name and their SACID 10-digit student ID number. Enter the student's information exactly as it appears in PSIS, then click Sign In. You will then be asked to verify if your student is the correct student. If the information is accurate, click Yes. On the Tasks for this Student page, select the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment. In the Task Form drop-down menu, select the correct form, Form 1 or 2. It is very important that you select the form that your district was assigned. Once you select the correct form, click Yes. Click Begin Task Now. Once you complete entering all scores and comments, you will next have the opportunity to return to any of the specific pages to review students' scores. Once all students' scores are verified, click Yes to submit the test. Remember, all scores must be entered, including teacher feedback. Required materials to administer the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment will be posted to the Connecticut Comprehensive Assessment Program portal in mid-March. These will include the district assignments for the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment, including the required form and grade-specific materials, along with the Connecticut Alternate Science Test Administration Manual and the Student Response Checklist. All materials needed to administer Form 1 and Form 2 will be included on the same page, but in separate tables. Each type of material will include information regarding what the material is needed for and instructions for how the materials should be prepared. Materials are specific to each form and include performance tasks for each grade, 5, 8, and 11. Materials will include grade-specific required resource packets and student rating score worksheets specific to grade 5, 8, and 11. Form assignment and specific grade level performance tasks and resource packets must be selected and downloaded with extreme care to ensure teachers administer the correct form and associated grade level performance task. Please note that the printed materials can be used to assess more than one student in a given grade to reduce the amount of printing needed. Teachers are encouraged to work with their colleagues to organize and share materials if possible. Guidance for the early stopping rule may be possible for a relatively small group of students who are not able to demonstrate an observable response. More information is included in the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment Test Administration Manual and on the Connecticut State Department of Education Assessment Program portal. For students who have been given permission by the CSDE to be considered for the early stopping rule specific to the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment, a teacher will be expected to complete scoring the first activity in the district assigned form. For district assigned to Form 1, this would be Storyline 1. For Form 2, this would be Storyline 2. To ensure your understanding, access the Connecticut Alternate Science quiz located in the Connecticut Alternate Science folder on your Schoolology menu. You may complete this quiz as often as needed to receive a minimum of an 80% passing rate. You will not receive notification indicating that you completed the Connecticut Alternate Science training. However, your participation will be determined by your submitted quiz. Thank you for your participation in the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment Field Test Training. If you have any questions, please contact the Office of Student Assessment at area code 860-713-6860. You are also welcome to direct questions to the Connecticut State Department of Education consultants included on this screen.